Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk some metal. Tonight we're diving into the box of mysterious North American singles. Sure why I tried to make that sound creepy, but the box is definitely full of some pretty obscure, unknown North American bands that at least got to the single stage, may never have put out an album, but they did leave behind a cool 7-inch vinyl artifact that it's time for it to get its time in the spotlight, have its 15 minutes of fame. So talk about them a little bit, play you some clips, and see what you think of some of these, long lost bands from the North American heavy metal underground of the 1980s. Let's start off tonight with a band from Middleton, New York, which, as I understand it, is a little bit north of New York City. The band was called Graffiti, and they put out this one single. The date for the single, well, kind of depends where you look. If you check the band's Discogs entry, one place on the page says 1988 and another place on the page says 1989. So there you go. Regardless, this pairs up the tracks Daydreamin' and Piece of Your Love. Start with a clip of the better of the two songs, in my opinion, Piece of Your Love by Graffiti. So that is Piece of Your Love by New York's Graffiti. Not the heaviest song ever recorded, but I like the guitar. It does have a little bit of kind of a raw, buzzy bite to it and great vocal melodies. Really like the singer on the track. So let's also check out a little bit of the flip side, which is called Daydreaming. Spoiler alert, this one's not going to be quite as good. Okay, I think that's probably enough of that one. Not a terrible song, but very mellow, obviously getting out of heavy circles pretty much completely. But yeah, it's kind of funny because if you just looked at the titles, you might expect Piece of Your Love was going to be the kind of laid back, sappy sounding one, but it's actually the one that has a little bit more of a bite to it. So yeah, Graffiti doesn't seem to have done anything else. It's one of these singles that you just don't see much information about. Whatever's printed on the back of the sleeve is about what you have to work with. Nevertheless, a cool single. It could go in that category I've talked about before of the killer filler singles, where there's one side with a track that you really like, and then the other side is like, yeah, that's kind of a throwaway track. Different style, as you could hear. That would definitely apply to the Graffiti single. Rare one to come across. I've seen copies on Dealers lists and auctions go for 3 figures on several occasions. I've also seen a couple of copies slip through the cracks and go for a bit less, which is something that will happen with these really obscure singles. If the right people don't notice that sale or that auction, they don't necessarily attract a huge amount of attention from other people. And so, yeah, sometimes you can get a good buy on this kind of thing. You just have to keep your eyes open and, know what you're looking for. The price sticker here has nothing to do actually with this single. I don't know. Well, actually, I guess it could. It says 1988 Hard Rock. This is not the sticker or anything related to when I bought it. I got very lucky and found a copy that did slip through the cracks a while back. But that is New York's Graffiti, our first entry for the night. The second one, this is going to be a weird one. If I were to tell you that in 1980 in Texas, there was a band called Hellstorm that did a rare private press 7-inch single, a lot of people would immediately assume that it was going to be in a huge, heavy kind of thing, massive, underground metal gem collectible. A lot of those come out of the Texas scene, of course, your militias and all of your stuff like that. Well, such a thing does exist. Here we have Hellstorm out of San Antonio, Texas. When you look at the single, though, it's a little strange looking. It's on a label called Golden Ruler, which not the most heaviest looking of printed labels. Song titles: "Cry for the Newborn" and "It's My Turn to Take You." Those songs could go in a lot of different directions based on the titles. Let's just go to the tape and see what we think of these two. First up, let's do a little bit of "Cry for the Newborn." And again, I may skip around in these tracks a little bit if the intros are a little slow to get off the ground. Okay, so there's a little bit of "Cry for the Newborn." Obviously not really heavy metal here. They're operating in, I don't know, a little bit of, a fuzzy kind of sound, a little psychedelic, a little bit trancy even. Interesting, kind of different. Let's see what the other song sounds like. This one's called "It's My Turn to Take You," again by San Antonio's long-lost Hellstorm.
Every time I see you, your thighs control my eyes. The thought of your breast, of your breast, of your breast, flesh against my chest, and I think it's time to take you.
Okay, so that side's obviously kind of losing the psychedelic weirdness and going a little more funky. what can we learn from this? Why is this in my collection? What's the deal with this? Well, obviously, a name like Hellstorm, I have no idea why they settled on a name like Hellstorm. It doesn't seem to be connected or very indicative of the style of music. I mean, you think of psychedelic, funk, trancey bands, certain types of names come to mind. Hellstorm is not one of them. Hellstorm, yes, makes you think like, blackened death thrash or something. Not what you're getting here. So you got to watch the names. Why does this one? But again, the name kind of gets it on some heavy metal lists because it sounds like it could be heavy. There's also, and it's noted on the picture sleeve here, there is reportedly some tenuous connection with the band Body Count, Ice-T's, thrash metal project from the early 90s. Well, it's still going. I'll admit, I don't remember what the connection's supposed to be. There's not much information about Hellstorm out there, but it is a single that is, kind of rare and sought after by folks. But I think it's more from the psychedelic and, maybe the funk crowd that are looking for it. It got featured. One of the tracks did. I think it was Cry for the Newborn. And it was included on the Wayfaring Canticles compilation. I think I'm getting that name right. Came out several years ago. There were some compilations that came out featuring like one track from a lot of these old 70s and early 80s singles for different styles. There were some of them that were featuring it and focused on like early 70s kind of proto metal, bonehead rock. Some that focused a little bit more on maybe like things that were a little bit, folk, early neo folk or stuff. Wayfaring Canticles kind of had a little bit of everything. I never picked it up. It was interesting, pretty eclectic. It's not something I would really have taken out and played a lot, but it included one of the songs from Hellstorm, and thus it's ended up on a lot of want lists since then. Even with all that said, I don't exactly remember what the connection with Body Count's supposed to be. I've checked my notes. Yes, I keep notes on records. Doesn't everybody? Weird. In my head, the connection is that one of the Body Count guitarists was involved with the Hellstorm project. But when you look them up on Discogs, there's just a very short blurb, and it mentions, the band was formed by a Ron White with a Sahara Greer on bass and Fred Micah on drums. So I don't know what the connection is. It's also a little weird because this came out in 1980. Body Count didn't become a thing until 91, 92. So there'd be like a 10-year gap between someone playing on this and then popping up in that band later on in Los Angeles. I don't know if someone watching remembers the exact connection and can spell it out for me. Please leave a comment down below, refresh my memory. I should remember what it was, but I don't quite make the connection. But anyway, so there are also some Ice-T and Body Count fans out there who are interested in the item, for the connection that's supposed to link Hellstorm to those acts. So yeah, it's a different kind of single. Obviously, it doesn't really jive with heavy metal whatsoever, but the songs are kind of interesting. It's not quite my cup of tea. I ended up picking it up because I knew there was, sort of this weird nebulous Body Count collection. I knew it was a rare single, and at the time it was like, yeah, I'll take a chance on it. So sometimes you just got to do those things. But that is Hellstorm. According to Discogs, they played exactly one gig. They made this one single in anticipation of following it up with an album. That, of course, never happened. And so the single and that Wayfaring Canticles compilation are pretty much the only things that are left from Hellstorm. All right. Up for our third and last entry tonight, we'll go with a band out of Cincinnati, Ohio, named Destroyer. Good name for a metal band, not necessarily the most original name. Probably a few more Destroyers have surfaced over the decades. This particular single pairs the tracks of Black Angels and The Grave, parentheses, 6 feet under, end parentheses. So yeah, let's give this one a listen and see what we think of Cincinnati's Destroyer. This is from 1985. We'll start with a clip of Black Angels. All right, there is some of Black Angels, really good tune. Dig the kind of sounds like slightly down-tuned, pretty fuzzy guitar, maybe shades of Death Row, early Pentagram stuff from the 80s. Vocalist, not bad either. Tune's got some good energy, moves along quite well. Let's check out the flip side and see if it can measure up. So here we have The Grave, 6 Feet Under. So yeah, another pretty good banger there with The Grave, 6 Feet Under from Cincinnati, Ohio's Destroyer. This is the band's only release single from 1985. Showed it off there. Yeah, some quirky little things about it. The picture sleeve is essentially, one-sided. You've got a good picture on the front, and it is a picture sleeve. It's glued together, but on the back, there is nothing. At the same time, there's a one-sided insert with more information about the band. One has to wonder, why didn't you just print this on the back of the picture sleeve? Who knows? It may have been added. They had to print one and save money to print the other later. Maybe they originally tried to put it on the back and something fouled up at the pressing plant. I have no idea. The label kind of interesting. You got the Destroyer, then INC, I guess, incorporated with the little, I don't know if it's Godzilla, dinosaur, generic monster face, whatever, kind of a cool label on the thing. And yeah, both tracks kind of smoke, not bad whatsoever. This is the kind of gem that you're hoping you find when you buy one of those unknown singles at a yard sale, record show, flea market or something. And you just had the feeling like that could be good. And you kind of cross your fingers and you're hoping to find something like this. This is not Graffiti. This is not where one side's kind of weak and the other, you're stuck with one song. This isn't like Hellstorm where the name misled you a bit and you ended up with an interesting kind of psychedelic funk experience instead of a metal experience. These are, straight out heavy metal tunes, both of them quite solid. And is one of the reasons, the Destroyer singles typically held in pretty high regard by a lot of folks who collect this stuff. You don't always get 2 really good straight up metal tunes on these things. Sadly, again, band doesn't seem to have released anything else. One little bit of trivia, kind of footnote. Obviously, with these kind of singles, sometimes you find them without the picture sleeves. The Destroyer one is pretty rare, doesn't turn up all that often. And because it has a reputation as a really good single, it does cost a bit more sometimes. Obviously, if it doesn't have the picture sleeve, those copies can go kind of cheap. Metal collectors, we tend to want everything with it. It's amazing how much difference in price the picture sleeve makes. So sometimes, you can get it if you just want it for the music, find a copy without the picture sleeve, you'll save a lot of money. Keep in mind that if you later want to upgrade to a copy that has like the picture sleeve, that's fine. You can certainly do that. It can be really hard to unload that spare copy that you used to have that didn't have a picture sleeve. I've tried that approach a few times over the years. Get the cheap copy with no sleeve. A few years later, find a nice copy with a sleeve. And then it's like, okay, can I sell this unsleeved copy and get some of the money back, recoup a little bit? That takes some work. A lot of folks, if it's supposed to have a picture sleeve, they just flat out don't want it unless it has the picture sleeve. It's like, it's the same music. It's a lot cheaper. Like, nope, I don't want it. So just beware that strategy comes with a little bit of peril. Last thing to point out with Destroyer, the insert is also pretty rare on this. A lot of copies don't have an insert with it. So again, if you're trying to get the whole kit and caboodle, it needs the picture sleeve and the insert. I was told years ago, one of the issues with the insert and why you see a lot of copies lacking it is that, as the legend goes, a collector had a copy of this with the insert back, this would probably have been early mid 90s, and that collector ended up getting some quantity of this single. I don't know if he found them someplace or got them from a band member, whatever, but he ended up getting a bunch of copies of the single, and they all had the inserts with them. Well, the collector reportedly destroyed most, if not all, the inserts before selling off the extra copies, because he wanted to make sure his copy in his collection that had the insert was especially rare and especially desirable. Like, everybody else can have a copy with a picture sleeve, but I get to have the one with the insert, and the rest of you don't get inserts. So just apparently took them, threw them in the trash, shredded them, lit them on fire, don't know what. Record collectors are strange creatures. You used to hear these kind of weird tales about different records, not just in heavy metal, but in other styles as well, where people, would find copies really cheap and just flat out destroy them because they were afraid, if all these copies of Destroyer with the insert get out there on the market, it devalues mine. Mine's not as special anymore. I think most of us can agree that's a pretty jerk thing to try to do. And I am happy to say it seems to be a behavior that has become more rare over time. Again, I grew up, with a dad collecting records quite seriously, so I was always at record shows and record stores. Record dealers and collectors, they are a strange breed. And yes, in talking with folks, we would hear and see all kinds of odd behavior regarding, you can't have that, this has to stay hidden, no one can know about this, blah, 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 blah. Something that's very much impressed me about the VCLT community on YouTube, in regards to heavy metal circles at least, is that people really don't act that way. Folks are, happy to share information, happy to show things, and let other people know what is out there that they can then try to go and collect. Nobody's trying to hide away the fact that, there's this other pressing, but I don't want anyone else to know about it. That's my special little secret. So yeah, if you go looking for the Destroyer single and have some trouble finding an insert, that is supposedly what happened to a lot of them. I've seen other copies with insert. Mine's certainly not the only one, but it can be harder to find a copy that has the insert if that's something you desire. And that is going to wrap it up for tonight. So we've checked out 3 pretty varied and interesting singles. Just to recap, we had the rare Graffiti single, New York, 1988. One really cool side, one side that's pretty laid back. We had the strangely named Hellstorm from Texas, working in kind of psychedelic and funk tones. Different, somebody who has some tenuous connections to the heavy metal universe. So an interesting one for folks to know at least what it is. And then, of course, Cincinnati's Destroyer, with 2 really good ripping heavy metal tunes right out of 1985. So now let's wrap this up and let's talk metal in the comments down below. Does anybody remember the body count connection on Hellstorm? I should know that, and it just is one of those little nuggets of information that has leaked out of the back of my mind over the years. If you know, please post it. Let me know. What do you think of the others? Are there other weird tales that you've heard where certain copies or pressings of things were kind of rounded up by nefarious collectors or dealers and then just scrapped, or that they refused to release them to the rest of the collecting world? There are other examples of that kind of behavior that haunt record collecting lore. If you know some of them, share your story in the comments down below. it's always kind of interesting to hear, yeah, what kind of just, sort of, bat crazy behavior people will do when they get too obsessive about their collection. And with that, going to wrap this one up. Until next time, everybody take care. And as always, keep banging your head.